Is America an exceptional nation? Do you have friends who say it isn't? If you want to fully understand the roots of American exceptionalism, how it is being threatened, and what you can do about it, pick up my free ebook, Understanding American Exceptionalism, what it is, how it came to be, and why it's fading, at understandingamericabook.com. Link below in the description. On August 9, 2014, in Ferguson, Missouri, Michael Brown robbed a convenience store. Later, he attacked police officer Darren Wilson by trying to take his gun and was shot dead as a result. In the aftermath of this tragic event, the mainstream media went into overdrive, trying to frame this story as being yet another example of white racism, particularly the racism of an overwhelmingly white police force towards the black community. Michael Brown was presented as being a gentle giant, and the narrative of hands up, don't shoot, later exposed as a lie, was promoted. It is this incident that gave birth to the Black Lives Matter movement, whose alleged purpose was to protest the alleged epidemic of unarmed black men being killed by the police. The only problem with this narrative, much like the myth of the gentle giant of Ferguson, is that it is utterly false. Heather McDonald of the Manhattan Institute has outlined these inconvenient truths. For example, of the 7,881 blacks killed in 2016, only 233 were fatally shot by police, and the vast majority of those were armed and dangerous. In fact, according to the Washington Post, only 16 were classified as unarmed. Does this sound like an epidemic to you? Harvard economics professor Roland Fryer analyzed more than 1,000 officer shootings across the country. He concluded that there was zero evidence of racial bias in police shootings. In fact, he found that black suspects were less likely to be shot than their white counterparts. Despite this and other inconvenient facts, the media narrative of black males being targeted by the police lived on. In 2016, then San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick began to take the knee during the anthem to protest the false narrative of black victimization at the hands of the police. Although other athletes joined him, Kaepernick's protest of the flag and anthem began to fizzle out. Turns out you cannot create real movements for social change based on a lie. This is where the story might have ended, at least on the NFL side, but one unpredictable political actor decided to make a point.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
The establishment's response, among both the media and sports, was immediate and ferocious. In response, sports figures in both the NFL and NBA attacked the president, and they were given support in their attacks by the vast majority of the media. What is going on here? The reason for the vitriol thrown at the president was not merely for criticizing athletes, but because, by attacking them, he was also symbolically attacking the false narrative they were promoting. Black men are not being targeted by police officers, black or white. White racism, or the alleged racism of American society as a whole, is not to blame. If your goal is to reduce the black homicide rate, disrespecting the anthem and sulking on the sidelines will not do it. But what would? What could have saved Michael Brown's life, as well as hundreds of other young black men like him? I remember as a child watching Marvis Frazier, son of boxing legend Joe Frazier, fight Larry Holmes for the heavyweight championship of the world. As the fight began, it appears as if Marvis was doing well. He was moving around the ring, throwing punches, and even clowning a bit. He was doing well, that is, until Larry Holmes started throwing punches himself. I remember that out of nowhere, Holmes threw a punch that sent Frazier crashing to the ground. Marvis managed to pull himself off the canvas, but the fight was essentially over at that point. The fight ended with Holmes pinning Frazier against the turnbuckle as he threw half-hearted punches in his direction. Larry Holmes, who was a gentleman, was looking at the ref to stop the fight, which he soon did, and that was it. Marvis Frazier, son of the great Joe Frazier, had lost his championship fight in the first round by TKO. Recalling the incident, the younger Frazier said he couldn't imagine the shame he felt. He thought not only had he embarrassed himself in front of his friends and family, but he had done it in front of the thousands of people in that stadium and millions watching on television from their homes. However, before he could sink any further into his depression and shame, something remarkable happened. His father, Joe Frazier, jumped into the ring and gave his spiritually crushed son a gigantic hug while whispering the following in his ear. "Don't worry, son. Everything is going to be okay. Always remember, your daddy loves you."
Too many fathers are MIA. Too many fathers are AWOL. Missing from too many lives and too many homes. They've abandoned their responsibilities. They're acting like boys instead of men. And the foundations of our family have suffered because of it. You and I know this is true everywhere, but nowhere is it more true than in the African American community. We know that more than half of all black children live in single-parent households. Half. A number that's doubled since we were children. We know the statistics that children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit crime. They're 9 times more likely to drop out of school, 20 times more likely to end up in prison. They're more likely to have behavioral problems or run away from home or become teen parents because the father wasn't in the home. The foundations of our community and our country are weaker because of this. Think about it. How many times over the last year has this city lost a child at the hand of another child? How many times have our hearts stopped in the middle of the night with the sounds of gunshot or sirens? How many teenagers have we seen hanging out on street corners instead of hanging out in the classroom? How many are sitting languishing in prison when they should be working or at least looking for a job? How many in this generation are we willing to lose to poverty or violence or addiction?
What really would have saved Michael Brown's life on that October day? The narrative of black victimization at the hands of overwhelming white racism is an establishment lie that people are frankly getting tired of. Kneeling will do nothing to bring the black crime rate down, including the homicide rate. But what if these young black men had fathers in their lives? If Michael Brown had a father like Joe Frazier, do you think he would be alive today? Preparing the family, particularly the black family, in America, would do more to make Black Lives Matter than 1,000 entitled celebrities pimping and preening. They won't though, as that would require real work and tough conversations. It's just so much easier to virtue signal and take the knee. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to my channel. Don't forget to press the little button as well to be notified when new videos are available. If you would like to support my channel, there are 2 ways to do it. One way is to support me on my Patreon account at patreon.com/Tocqueville. Patreon allows people to support their favorite content creators directly. Even $1 a month helps me out a lot and will allow me to create more and better content. The second way is to purchase some of my books and comics from Amazon. I've actually created a number of short stories and comics under the name Funny Comics, loosely based on the game Minecraft. Some of my most popular titles are my movie Minecraft parody comics. More recently, however, I have started to create comics and short stories that will hopefully educate as well as entertain. My first 2 titles feature George Washington and Ronald Reagan as characters. With your support, I hope to make more in the future, and all of these titles are free with Kindle Unlimited. Links for both options are below in the description. Thank you in advance for any support you can give.